As I move into the last 2 months of my journey with you, guiding you to become healthy body, soul, and spirit, I feel compelled to spend a couple of weeks on what I know is required to grow and heal, and that's healing your past. Your heart, mind, and body must engage in your story of your past in very particular ways for healing to happen. We avoid our stories. We do it for decades. And why is that? We're going to look at our stories and ask some of those important questions in the next couple of weeks. Consider this a 2-week series, Healing the Past. We all have stories. Our stories of our life. They have many scenes, good scenes and bad scenes, boring ones and exciting ones. The characters of our stories, our parents, our siblings, our teachers, our coaches, our friends, these people marked you because they were, well, the characters in your story. Your relationships were and still are a major part of your story. Then there's the plot line of your story. What moments marked your story? The plot line can change in an instant. If you made a storyboard of your life, relationships and experiences would be on your storyboard. Your plot line is what launched you into this world. And then when you looked at your story, the plot line that became so meaningful to each one of us would have plot twists, just like all great stories do. You're heading into a certain direction and bam, something happens. The plot twist changes. The trajectory of your story suddenly changes. And hear this, all plot twists in some sort disorient you. You're going along life with a particular understanding of how life works, and then all of a sudden, something intrudes and something disorients you. The ground that you thought was solid under your feet, your understanding of how the world operates, how your family operates, how God operates, all of a sudden that ground becomes shaky, if not upturned completely. Your life story is epic. It's better than Star Wars. What if you took it seriously and became curious about how it unfolded and what effects it's had on your story that is your life? There are only 2 ways your story has come to be: your genes and the experiences you've had. That's it, those 2 ways. With the exception of your genes that were passed on to you, your brain is a function entirely of the experiences you've had. You're not going to change permanently until you deeply change the way you think. And your thinking is based on all those experiences. So you've got to go back and acknowledge them. And here's the thing, when it comes to our stories, our parents and our families of origin, the relationships with people influence the brain more than any other factor. Your earliest life experiences have much more significance on the brain's development than the later experiences. So when you put those 2 together, the relationships influence the brain more than anything else, and the earliest life experiences have more influence on the brain than later life experiences. The earliest relationships with your primary caretakers have the most shaping power on your brain. So the power to change and grow and heal comes from looking back and being curious about your story, the plot twists of your life. There's common objections that we hear, and I've heard a lot of them for years, about why people don't want to look back. The first one, we've all heard it. You know, my parents did the best they could. Remember Bennett's story? His work to heal himself? Now, if he said instead, you know, my mom, I'm not gonna, look back at the harm she caused because she was doing the best she could. I mean, and I really love her and I don't want to hurt her. That really doesn't have anything to do with Bennett's story. He just needs to name his story and heal it, just like I needed to name my story and heal it. And guess what happens when Bennett and I can talk openly about all of this? We both heal and we get closer. Honesty requires that you name how life really was for you. Honesty requires that you name how you were harmed. Have you named how your mother harmed you? Have you named how your father hurt you? Honesty about these things will change your life. You will never be the same once you begin to name how those most shaping relationships influenced your life. And hear this, when it comes to healing, this is such good news. Naming how you've been harmed is about 70% of the battle. Naming how you've been harmed is about 70% of the battle. That's a big percentage. Don't be afraid of it. Here's another common objection to why we don't look back and look at our stories. You know, my mom had an awful childhood. My dad was abused as a child. Your parents' experiences profoundly affect how they parented you. Just like I said about Bennett, my parenting came out of my woundedness, and that affected him. Naming that for him was a big deal. It allowed him to do the work of healing in redeeming his own life instead of explaining my parenting away and have it not change a thing for him. I've talked to you about how I've needed to forgive my mom for leaving me. Well, don't you think Bennett needed to forgive my mom too? My mom left his mom. That's his grandmother. That's part of his story. For the part of his story, remember when he talked about generational sin? That's what he's needed to do, to go back and forgive his mom's mom for the harm she caused his mom. For Bennett to be free, he has to go back just like I did. Listen, Bennett believes that God heals incurable wounds, but he needed to recognize and engage the wounds that harmed him before he's able to allow God to heal them. Another objection. What's the point of dwelling on the past? I mean, you hear that all the time. Remember William Faulkner? He was a great American writer. Back in 1951, he said in one of his books, "The past isn't dead. It's not even the past." Science has confirmed that. If you think your past is in the past, you don't know how the brain works. Whenever you have an experience in the present, the very first thing each one of our brains do is filter it through the experiences we've all had. No one experiences reality as it truly is in the present. We experience reality through the lenses of what we've already experienced. I'm a perfect example. The things that hurt me deeply decades ago brought fear to me in current present day and had everything to do with my past abandonment. Logic has little to do with why I looked outside myself in current day to get my needs met. It had little to do with the feelings of betrayal and abandonment in this current day. It had to do with my past and how I was betrayed and abandoned then. If logic was ruling us today, we'd only need to read about how to be healthy emotionally and spiritually and physically, and then we would just be it. But it's not how we roll. We roll out of our past experiences, every single one of us. Then we bring those experiences into our marriages, our parenting, our friendships, our relationships with others and ourselves. And this sounds contradictory to what I share, but here goes. The point of engaging your past is so you can actually live in the present. Until you engage your story, you're actually living as much in the past as you are in the present. What's the point of dwelling in the past? So you can live fully in the present. And then you've got to ask yourself, what does that mean and is it worth it? What does it mean to live fully present and alive today? The practice of reflecting on your story, the story of your life, actually promotes healing in your brain. The key to healing your brain is connecting it. Engaging the core stories of your life heals your brain. Your left brain holds your thoughts about the past experiences. Your right brain holds the feelings about those experiences. If you are able to engage your story, and when I say engage your story, I mean share your story while staying present, while staying emotionally connected to the story, your left and right brain come together. And you find what science calls integration, what the Bible calls shalom, peace, the webbing together of things that are separated. You have a story. Your story matters. You must engage your story, if not for the first time, in new ways. So tell me, this little girl, Letha, that you've heard about over the years, is her story important to engage in? The story of her abandonment? That little girl that was left is me. Do you think it matters to me or to the generations that come after me to revisit the story and heal those wounds? The earth shifted the day my mom left. The ground broke. It was a huge plot twist in my life. One door closed, another one opened. My life was disoriented that day. I have an epic story. You have an epic story. To live fully alive in the present, we must visit and heal those painful stories of our past. Thursday, I'm going to share a little bit more about how we're going to engage your story, how to go about writing your story, recognizing your story, staying engaged in your story. But for now, I want you to begin to think. Think about your storyboard, the memories, the circumstances of your life that shaped you, good and bad, the plot twists from your parents, from your earliest memories on. It takes physical, mental, and emotional space to do the work of unearthing what's beneath the surface. But what's waiting for you on the other side of this work is so worth it. Shalom, peace for your body, your soul, and your spirit. Healing the past. We're going to spend a couple weeks on it. Love you guys. Talk to you later.